think he wants to go home.
Home.
Where is your home? Is that right?
He knows where his home is.
Well, where is his home?
Dougie! Dad? Dad!
Home.
I got idea, man. You take me for a walk under the sycamore tree, the dark trees that blow, baby, in the dark trees that blow, and
And welcome to this week's edition of Twin Peaks Unwrapped. I'm your host, Bryon Kazaskin. Beside me, as always,
Ben Durant.
Ben, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I can't believe it's over. I can't believe we've gotten through the return of Twin Peaks.
The summer of Twin Peaks.
Summer of Twin Peaks.
I have so many emotions. I have mixed emotions. I have strong emotions. I don't know what to think half the time.
Me too.
But I think that's why we're here. And
Right.
the community at large is going to help us make heads or tails of everything. And hopefully what we say today will help other people because they're lost as well.
Right.
And maybe they'll hear something we say and they can message us and that will help us understand what we were saying.
Yeah.
I think this is what's so beautiful about Twin Peaks.
Definitely. And I think we might do the show a little different today. We might not focus exactly recap in order like we've done most of our shows. I think you can go see Diane's podcast probably and Parkwood 21, and those are great shows that would probably go more in order and structure. I want to blow things up and just start getting
And put it back together.
And put it back together. First, I'll just say, just to say, Part 17, The Return, aired on September 3rd. The past dictates the future. And they also aired Part 18 that same night, and that was What Is Your Name? So, Bryon, my first reaction, a big fan for over 25 years.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck?
Yes. I think that was actually the text message
like,
you sent me.
Yeah, probably was. Yeah.
WTF.
I was like, I don't know if I was devastated, but I had so many emotions. I was like, really? That's how we're ending this? And they didn't solve half the mysteries they put out there? And like, I had anger, I had so many feelings. And I was still kind of working through this. It was a work of art, and there was so much things to love about it, and there's a lot of Lost Highway feel to it, and there were so many things that I do love about it.
Yeah.
But as a structure, as a story that they were telling, it was like, what? This is out of left field. What is going on? And you actually went on the Red Room podcast, I think Monday night, and I was invited as well. And originally I was going to do it, and there was a couple of things, two things. First, my kids were going to school, and the next day, and I knew that it was going to be a lot to get them ready for bed and get them ready for school. It was a lot, but then my other feeling was just like I wasn't ready. I just was not ready. I wanted to be in a place where I could kind of really look at the whole series and get a feel for it. I think it was good that you were there, and I think I recommend people go check out Red Room Podcast and see that
it's a great
panel.
time.
But I also thought it was kind of special in a way for me not to be there and to be able to share it right now with our audience.
I agree.
So I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off right now, and I'm gonna tell you my theory or my feelings, my perspective about the whole series, the whole 18 parts.
All right, let's hear it, Ben.
Corny,
I'm excited.
It's corny, and people are like, so what? And I don't know. So my feeling about the whole series is it's really a story about returning home. That's corny. I feel like every single part you can see that these characters are talking about home. And of course, you got Dougie talking about home. Mm-hmm. You could look at Becky saying about how her husband hasn't returned home. And it's really... So what is home? Home is really... To me, home represents the idea of this comfort, loving environment. Mm-hmm. Something that Laura didn't have.
Correct.
And so it's funny. I thought maybe partly Scott Ryan saying, "Oh, you guys had your panels. Like you didn't really need to have Dougie 2.0 come back and go back to that family at the end, like at the beginning of Part 18.
Yeah.
But to me, you did because you needed to show that idea of home and that somebody is being able to reunite and have that loving thing.
It was payoff.
It was a payoff in some manner.
Yeah.
But I really do think, I really think you could write an essay about this whole idea that it's all about home, about returning home. And it starts off with the fireman in part 1 talking about it's in our house.
It is in our house now.
And I now look at that as either A, it's Sarah Palmer possessed by another creature that has taken over the Palmer house. At the very end with Carrie and Cooper. That's who I really say it's Laura and Cooper going to the house, and it's somebody else. It's another Tremond, which is still another spirit. It's like Laura still can't go home.
Where are we going?
We're going home.
I don't know if you noticed it, but there's this mirroring of 17 and 18. You have Cooper holding Laura's hand, trying to get her away from being killed.
Yes.
Which he can't do, and you said it on Red Room Podcast. You can't change the past. Like,
Correct.
She had to die.
Yes.
She had to go through that horrible experience. He's taking her by the hand to try and save her, and then she disappears. And they also cut between that. They had shots with Pete Martell, and that was before he lost her. So it looked like, if she hadn't been killed, here's what life would have been like.
Correct.
It didn't change history. History still was.
It was
the
a
same.
what-if scenario.
It was a what-if scenario. But in that those cuts between the holding Laura's hand, you also had Sarah Palmer moaning, and that's where she was breaking the pitcher.
Yeah.
And you had that same moaning sound at the end of 18. So you have Cooper holding Laura's hand at the house. You have the moaning of Sarah Palmer, and then you have Laura screaming, and that happens on both 17 and happens in 18. So this mirror kind of thing happening.
A lot of that in this whole series too.
Yeah. Right now, my feeling is Cooper was trying to change the past.
Yep.
And then he was trying to change the future. I mean, it's hard to tell in 18 if that's the future or another dimension or what that is. But right now, I'm going with the future, even though like he passes the R Diner and the to-go sign is missing, and we know that the bushes are different on the Palmer house. So there's differences. But right now, I'm thinking that they've drilled this into the head. Is it past or is it future? So I want to believe that Cooper went to the past, couldn't save Laura. He went to the future, he couldn't save her. But you could go through so many different characters, and it's all about home. You have Wally, who came home, and he was willing to give up on his bedroom for his family. I mean, but it's like it's these stories. I mean, and I already mentioned Becky about that. It was in the beginning. Shelley said, "I wish I could be there for my daughter." Like in the very early parts. She said, I can't connect and I don't like her husband and this and that. And then by the end of the series, you realize Shelley had to change too. She had to wake up and realize that how she could be there for her daughter, and that loving of come over to the R and have pie and stuff. And that can make that connection. And this is returning to the home of like Shelley and her daughter. And then we have Norma and her returning to home in the sense that she doesn't need all these franchises. What's most important is this community and this home.
And Ed.
And Ed, sure.
Big Ed, they're gonna get married.
Yeah. I think I can look at any one of these parts, and you'll have this focus of home, of love.
I like that. Yeah,
but
yeah.
Then you have Laura. How do we fix Laura, or how does she get fixed? And that wasn't really told in the end. I don't think. What is your thoughts?
See, I see it a little bit differently. I like what you're saying. It does make a lot of sense, and I think that's a very astute observation about the Holmes thing. It is true, the whole series. And I think seeing Dougie seeing them, I wanted that. So that to me was a great little payoff moment.
Yeah.
Seeing Dougie come home. I knew. Remember, I was like, this could be his new family.
Right.
A part of Dougie gets to live with them. So that's kind of cool.
And if this was a season finale, not a series finale, I feel like that would really wrap up the Dougie storyline.
We're done with Dougie.
Like, if for some reason they have a season 4, there's no reason to have those characters anymore. It's kind of there's all these other kind of loose ends that could continue on to another season if they had it. But I think that's their way of saying this season was about Cooper's journey, and he started off in the life of Dougie, and you kind of see him going through all that. And I even brought this up way back when I was talking to Andreas, when we had him on the show. I was saying, I feel like this is like the road less taken. This is the idea that, like, in another life, Cooper could have settled down, had a kid, and had that life.
Yes.
And his life has always been the work to the FBI, but it's kind of like you got to see that journey of, like, what if he hadn't become an FBI and he had decided to just, you know, live a regular life. I don't know. You know what's funny? I don't know if we ever bring this up, but, you know, if there ever had been a season 3 way back in the 90s, there was talk about Cooper settling in Twin Peaks and he was going to be a pharmacist. So he was going to work at like a drugstore.
What?
Yeah, that was one of the pitches for season 3. Like,
not good.
But I know, like, and they already kind of showed you what was life as a deputy. Like,
yeah.
I don't think he's ever meant to be
a pharmacist
or
insurance salesman.
Yes, right.
My overall thoughts. I mentioned this a little bit in the Red Room. You know, they had a lot of people on that show, so I didn't want to take up too much time. I was kind of saving a lot of it for today. I told you, so I watched Showtime aired them back to back to back 3 times in a row. I watched them 3 times in a row.
That's 6 hours.
6 hours.
The same.
It was fine though, because the first time I'm in awe, shock and awe, right? The first time, and you're so in the moment, you lose sight of the detail. Second viewing, I focused on things I really wanted to focus on. And the third time, I noticed a lot. And the third time, we'll talk about that later on. But overall, I woke up. I went to bed at 3 in the morning. I woke up at like 10 in the morning, and just this word, agents asleep. That's what I call it. Just in my head, it was just rattling around. I wrote a bunch of stuff down. I was messaging you. Overall, I thought Diane and Cooper, this electricity allowed them to go into a dream world of Linda and Richard, maybe. I don't know. I feel like Diane sees herself as Linda and Cooper as Richard. I don't know. If we got a season 4, this story with Diane would be amazing to flesh out. I don't know. I don't know anything about that. It's hard to wrap my head around it just yet. But what I do know is when they entered this world, they said to each other, you know, we can't go back. This is going to change us forever. I almost feel like Cooper was trying to remember everything. So when he went into this world, he'd have his memories.
Yeah.
I feel like Diane didn't. I feel like Diane felt like she was a different person. I feel like Cooper knew he was Dale Cooper. So they go to the hotel. They have strange sex. So,
and talking about that strange sex real quick.
Yeah, you want to talk about the mirror correlation?
Dougie was so happy when he was having sex, and then to have Cooper where he didn't seem to be enjoying
emotionless. He was just staring.
Right.
And they go into a hotel, and Diane sees herself briefly, and it disappears.
Right.
I think that was an apparition. I don't think there was physically 2 Dianes there. I feel like she was seeing herself. I don't know. I mean, maybe these worlds are all interconnecting now. They're in a spiritual world. They're in a dreamlike world. Anything is possible. They go into a hotel, which we prominently see what the hotel looks like.
It only has 1 floor.
It's 1 floor,
yep.
And it's an older hotel. They're driving an older car. They get into this hotel. The room's the same. They have sex. And then you mentioned how back in episode 2, when you meet Nadu, she's touching his face.
Yes.
And it was like the same parallel.
Wow, it's funny because when I was saying that, what I was thinking was like I was trying to look back as Nadu, and like, oh, so that's been Diane the whole time. And when she was touching his face back in part 3, she realized it was Cooper. Like, I mean, maybe she could hear him, but then to be able to touch him, she's like, oh, that's Cooper. I gotta help him get back to the world.
Yes. So you know how Twin Peaks. The original series kind of goes in a circle, and this one kind of says it's an infinite symbol.
Yeah, right.
What
if
the
8? Jeffrey's 8 is really an infinity symbol.
So the infinity symbol, if that takes place in this scenario now in this world, what if Diane, Linda, gets lost in the dream world, becomes Nadu, and then when Cooper lands into that world, she's feeling his face in. When they have sex like that, it's a parallel. She's remembering, and then when she's Nadu, she feels his face, and then when she's doing that, she's crying like, oh my God, you know, like, I saved him. I don't know, like, sort of like Annie appearing in Laura's bed to give her a message in the past.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like, it's like it's a parallel that will help in the future and the past, and it always happens. It's
That's
an infinite
possible.
loop.
And it's interesting you bring up something about the timeline, because last we knew, Diane was brought to the gas station, which is the convenience
Where she was
store.
raped.
Right.
No, she was raped before that.
No, she was raped first,
Yeah.
and then she was brought to the convenience store.
Yeah.
To me, which in a way could have been a prisoner. But it's interesting that she goes from the convenience store and then gets to what I think is the White Lodge.
Yes.
So I do wonder if the fireman or somebody else was protecting her from the evil and stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe you're right. That's true. That's a good point. That's why I think if there was a season 4, that would be an amazing story to give us with Diane in this world and where that leads. And does that lead her to be Nadu later on? And how does she become Nadu? And I don't know.
And it's
Just
interesting to me
infinite
that
possibilities.
Andy said how important she was. I mean, she was important to this whole thing when he got her in the woods and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So it's very fascinating. But that whole sex scene, it also made me think of like, okay, what if she really is Diane and she's with Cooper, but when she sees Cooper's face, all she can think of is Mr. C raping her.
Yes, that's what I thought too.
Yes, so
I thought
it's
that as
covering
well.
that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it can definitely work on many different levels.
It's facing her fear. She was facing her fear because she knew she knew Cooper wasn't Mr. C. She knew who this was. They went on this journey together, and I thought the same thing. She's crying. She's facing her fear. She's feeling his face like, okay, you raped me, but now we're making love.
A version of you.
A version of you. And it's not that way, but I'm still scared. But at the same time, he's emotionless. So that's the odd part. I don't know what to make out of that.
Yeah.
He's literally just laying there with this blank look on his face while she's feeling his face. I don't know if he was just to be in her reality, just to be there to get her over this fear, this tragedy. Maybe.
Yeah, it's probably, for me, it's the most oddest thing.
It was. I don't make out of it.
We can go to the Red Room, we can go here, we can go there, but that sex scene was disturbing and bothering. Again, I mean, it kind of makes me think of Lost Highway because they have some really strange scenes like that.
You know, she leaves a note about saying, "You're Richard, I'm Linda," and I'm wondering, I'm like, so she thinks she's like a different person. She thinks he's a different person in her world. He's by himself. When he leaves, he's in a different hotel.
Yes.
And he gets into a modernized car.
Right.
And when he leaves the hotel, he leaves on the left side. When they entered, it was on the right side. It was a completely different building.
Yes.
So I think him going into this world, he goes to the diner, which was Judy.
Right, and so the fascinating thing about this is in the original script of Fire Walk With Me, Agent Jeffries said, "I've been to Judy's.
I found something in Seattle at Judy's."
Judy's as in a place, not or Judy's place. So it's funny that they are going back to at least some stuff that they had thought about that it and I always thought I actually thought it could have been a restaurant and stuff. I don't remember if they ever spelled it out in the script, but I thought that it could have been a place.
Yeah, and Gordon Cole says it's a strong force, an entity.
Yeah, so early on, he's telling Agent Burt that sorry he couldn't share this with you, but Cooper and Major Briggs, and I think Jeffrey was somehow included in this plan, and it was Major Briggs that realized there was this entity, and the entity was an extreme negative force called Jade.
Yeah,
which is now, I mean, that was the old days what it was called, and then over time it became Judy.
Yeah.
Which then, I mean, I don't know about you, but it seems to me to be the mother, the experiment, it's the greatest evil of all.
Yeah. Also, it still preserves Judy as a mystery, which I really liked. A part of me really wants to know who Judy was. Who was Judy? But a part of me was scared to know because the mystery would be gone forever. And I'm glad.
Well, here's the thing, too, is Jeffrey says to Mr. C, who I don't know if he thinks he is Cooper, he says, you met Judy before.
Yes.
And I think that still works if the experiment is in Sarah Palmer. So if it's in Sarah Palmer, the reason you've met Judy before is through Sarah Palmer.
Yeah.
So it all works.
It all works. He goes to the diner. Now, he's not acting like Cooper. He's acting like a neutral Cooper. I would say somewhere in between what we've seen with Mr. C, but someone who's not as excited as Mr. Cooper from Twin Peaks.
Right.
He's somewhere in the middle.
Yes.
He's not talkative. He's not excitable, but he's very precise. And he says what he means what he says. He's a very straightforward kind of guy. I got that impression. How did you get? I got this.
I mean, he definitely was.
He wasn't clowning around.
Right.
Business.
I mean, yeah.
He had a mission.
And I even got that from, I get that sense from part 1 when he talking to the fireman. He's just kind of like, I understand. Like, it's just direct and like, I'm taking it all in and I'm going to do my mission.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, there's different theories. Some people thought he was another person.
I don't think he was Mr. C at all. That's what a lot of people were saying.
I do not think it's Mr.
No.
C. He doesn't have the black eyes. I don't think that at all. No.
Yeah, he is a variation of Cooper, definitely. Right. And is he Richard in the scenario for Linda / Dan? Sure. Is he Cooper to himself? Because I think we saw him memorizing everything. I think he has his memories. I think he came into this world saying, I don't want to forget any of this because I need my memories to get me through this.
I do think they're all scenarios of Cooper Dougie. They're not Dougie, the manufactured Dougie. I'm talking about the real Cooper. When he came to this world, he kind of lost his memory and he was living the life of Dougie because that was the surroundings he was in. I don't put it past that Laura Palmer came to this place and took up the life of Carrie. That's my theory. I believe that really is Laura Palmer. She forgot who she was when she got to this place and that she's kind of taken in as this new character. And I feel like that's kind of what happened with Diane. And that's kind of what's happening with Cooper to some degree. I think Cooper's having a better handle of it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. For me, see, this is where my theory is. I believe he is in Laura's world, which... if we say she's the ultimate dreamer, because she's had she's had this horrible life, upbringing, she created this world where she was Carrie Page. But I don't think she can escape the evil. And maybe in her fantasies, Carrie Page shoots and kills her predator, which we see in her room. There's a dead guy with a bullet hole, and it looks like his stomach is weird, and he looks like he's been decaying for a while. There's flies, and the house is shit. Front lawn is shit. I think even in her wildest dreams, fantasy, she can't escape the darkness, but she has control over it. She kills someone, and I think that person was either a predator of some kind, husband, boyfriend, or could have been a father figure. I don't know.
Yeah.
So for me, I think we're in Laura's head. I think this is her fantasy world.
I can buy that. I'm not saying I don't know if that's my opinion, but I can buy that for a few reasons. One, for when we get to the sheriff's station, Cooper gets there and there's like a head version of him.
Yeah.
Like, it's really interesting. It stays on there for a long time, transparent, kind of like, and at one point he says, we live inside a dream, which is what Jeffrey says. I almost feel like Cooper has taken over Jeffrey's role. He's definitely doing a lot more, maybe time traveling or going other places. He goes, like Jeffries, he went to see Judy. So I feel like he's kind of taken up the role of Jeffries.
I totally agree on that because I feel that now Cooper is in Laura's psyche. He can jump around. But here's the part. I think Jeffries, he get the nosebleeds, and he seemed a little fried because he doesn't know what is real and what's not anymore because he's been everywhere.
Right.
And also, when you're jumping in someone else's reality, what is real to you? He doesn't know what is going on. I think Laura changing her identity to Carrie Page, then going to the Palmer house, but I looked at her face.
Yeah.
And it looked like, to me, I got this impression, it's almost worrisome.
She doesn't want to remember.
She doesn't want to remember. And you're making me remember. This is scary. To me, it came across as like, is he going to figure it out? Is someone going to break reality here? Am I going to have to wake up and come out of this dream I'm in?
Yeah.
And then at the very end, when you hear Laura from Sarah Palmer and she screams, it's almost like she's coming back to reality.
Right. And that's where I kind of feel like Cooper Dougie wakes up. I feel like there's these versions of them waking up, that they're in this other life.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's one other thing about the dream is that there is a point where Cooper's in the past and he's meeting with Laura, and Laura says she recognizes Cooper as in her dream.
Yes. Was this the dream?
I don't know if it was a dream, but it's still interesting that we get the whole dream thing. And
that's what I'm wondering though. there's a 4th page missing from her diary.
Yes. Did you see my Twitter recently?
No.
Okay.
No.
I was thinking about this 4th page, and I think people are kind of like, what? This wasn't paid off. We have Hawk saying there's another missing page. And maybe this is a stretch, but we go back to the original series, 2nd season, and we're about to solve the whole Laura Palmer case. And Donna goes to the Miss Tremont, and it's a different Tremont, just like we have... Well,
wait, the real Tremont.
Yeah. So she goes to Tremont's, and she has an envelope. And in that envelope is another page, is 1 page of Laura's diary. And in it, she's saying about how I had this dream about a little man dancing, and there was Cooper, and she thought it was Mike, and she wanted help from him, and she hoped that he could save her. And then he kind of says, Andy, go take Donna home. Does not take the diary, and he just kind of takes off. And like, I'm thinking to myself, did Andy take the diary page, or is he just letting Donna keep the diary page?
Ooh, and we didn't see Donna, and that 4th page is missing.
Right. So she had it. She read it. And it mentions about how she whispered a secret to Cooper. And again, that's really played up in the end of this part. At the end of the whole series, the last image we get is Laura whispering something to Cooper. But I feel like there's that connection. And
Yeah, I totally agree.
I know it's a stretch, but at the same time, I kind of like, was it ever brought into evidence? Could that be the floating? And to connect it to the Tremonts, and to connect it to the whispering of the secret, and to connect Cooper and the whole thing.
Well, didn't she whisper the killer's name and he forgot it the next day?
Yes, and then he remembers it when he's in the roadhouse. It all comes together.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it all comes together.
My father killed me.
For me, the reason I woke up Monday morning with Sleeper Agent, part of me feels like Dale Cooper, and you said it perfectly, has kind of become the next Jeffries, but I feel like he's confused. He's like, what year is this? Are you kidding me? Like, he drove by with her, the double R. It was the old double R. The house, it looks like the old house.
I know you say that, but like, all you need is a coat of paint to cover up the double R to go.
I know, but this is my theory is that he might have landed in the right time, but because she's masking it with this fantasy dream, he has no grasp of reality anymore. He's living in other realities. So how does he know what's true or not?
And Jeffries went through the same thing.
Yes.
I mean, and we kind of talked about that for our Fire Walk with Me show, where in the script is even more blunt. Jeffries is kind of like he's out of it on Cole's desk. And Cole says Mayday, Mayday, and then he realizes May, and he's like realizing he's like, wait a minute, this is February, and I think he's realizing he's in the wrong time period.
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
I think he's everywhere, and I think it would be so cool if we did get a season 4. We can really go into this world with Cooper and Diane. But the other part of me feels this was a great ending that would keep us talking for another 25 years.
Yeah, for me, I can look at the whole and say it's about family, it's about love, it's about finding a place to feel safe in life, and to kind of look at all these characters. I feel like I can accept it more than I can accept what year is it, and to be left on the street with these two characters to never have a resolution.
What was your favorite out of 17 and 18? What was your favorite part? I mean, do you favor one out of those two, or do you just kind of feel it's one? Or I
mean, 17 feels more climactic.
I have some issues with 17.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I liked 18 a lot.
Yeah,
17. Since we pretty much talked about the ending, let's go to 17. Because it's the big battle that we've all been waiting for, sort of, the last couple of episodes.
Yes.
With Freddy was going to have conflict with Mr. C. We all assumed. I thought there was some odd story arc choices that still kind of perplex me. I don't know if they were that great. But overall, I enjoyed. It was. I felt satisfied, and I felt the fight scene between Freddy and the orb.
What was that orb?
The Bob orb. That Bob was.
My one thing I got right.
You got it right, Ben.
Series, I was like, Bob has been in him the whole time.
Yeah.
I believe. Because it was hard to tell if he was taken out or not. But my gut told me Bob had been with.
So they fix him up, and he goes back in, and he continues.
Yes.
Sort of.
Right.
That's how it goes. Okay, so
like a partnership there.
Yeah, it's a partnership. So you were right there. Bob was in him. As much as I didn't want to believe it, but it makes sense. We saw Andy's premonitions kind of come true. He realizes once he sees Mr. C, Cooper, oh my God, he's got a picnic basket, and he's all excited, and they come in. It was kind of exciting to, my heart hurt a little bit because this is the first time Cooper is seeing them, but it's Mr. C.
Right.
Wasn't that kind of like...
Oh, yeah, it's twisted.
It was twisted because they were so happy, and he smiled.
We were just talking about you.
Mr. C smiled. The little, hi, Andy. And he just a little smile. I'm like, oh, this is weird. I don't know how I feel about this.
At some point when Andy gets in there, he realizes it's not the real Cooper. I can't remember what it was, but he starts putting things in place. He purposely puts a chair in a specific place for Mr. C to sit next to Frank Truman and stuff.
Yep,
he purposely he's yelling to Lucy. This is important. This is important. So he's putting people in place, and we didn't actually see it, but it seems like to me his vision was I feel like he told Lucy, "Take my gun. I want you to stand right here at this moment," and stuff like that. I feel like he put her in place to shoot.
Yes.
Mr. C.
He had to. I mean, where would Lucy get this gun from? So Andy was sort of the chess master.
He was with his. I think he kind of got everybody in the right place to do the job.
But at the same time, there was a part of me was like, the one thing that made no sense. Granted, he was placing things where they needed to be, but when you went downstairs and Chad escaped, Freddy was going to punch that thing and hit Chad in the face, and Andy hears the gunshot upstairs when Lucy shoots Mr. C, and Andy goes, "I need to take you all upstairs." And I'm like, but why? You heard gunshots. The one place you don't want to go is towards those gunshots. I understand that we had to have Freddy come upstairs, but a part of me was just like, but you're putting Nadu in danger. You're putting James in danger. You're putting, Chad, nobody cares, and Billy, he could stay there. But you're putting James and Nadu in danger. Why would you bring them upstairs?
Mr. C has been doing these coordinates, and it looks like the coordinates actually happen to be Jack Rabbit's palace all this time. So what was Mr. C's goal to go to I'm calling the White Lodge?
To get Nadu?
Yeah, you're right. She would have been on the ground.
She would have been on the ground, and he would have got her.
Yeah.
And if she was important, he could have killed her. And
yeah, maybe that's it.
That maybe Nadu was the last connecting piece to to Cooper.
Right. So maybe he was going to pull a Wyndham Earl, and she would have been a hostage or something like that.
Maybe.
But so interesting thing, he gets into the White Lodge, he's trapped there, and then the fireman lets him lose exactly where the.
Yeah, what did I say to you? Why? That makes...
I think he basically the fireman had told Andy what he had to do. He was putting all the pieces in the right spot, but it's still, at first you're kind of like, why? Okay, why would if the White Lodge had Mr. C, why would they let him go? He was in a cage. I mean, on the left side, you had Major Briggs' floating head, and you had Mr. C in a cage. Why would you even let him go? We have you. Yeah, I think they still had to, I still think one of them had to die, right? Either Cooper or Mr. C had to die. That was the agreement for the beginning.
Couldn't the White Lodge destroy him?
I don't know. Maybe that's not how it works.
See? Interesting. See, part of me was like, why did the White Lodge let him go? You had him.
Right.
But you're right. Now, here's a part I have mixed feelings. This is the only part I have mixed feelings about. I will even say I like the Audrey stuff in retrospect more. The fight scene, I watched it 3 times. I really liked it a lot. I thought the fight scene between Freddy and the Bob Orb was, I didn't find it to be cringeworthy. I thought it was pretty cool and brutal, and it was more than I expected. I kind of envisioned Freddy punching Mr. C in the face or the gut and having like an echo come out of him, like a spirit of Bob come out of him, and maybe being blown away. Because when Freddy punches those guys in the face, there was some sort of sonic boom to make that record skip.
Oh, yeah.
So I kind of felt like that's what we were going to see. Now, the fight scene, all 3 times I watched it, I liked it. I don't know how you felt overall. Like, how would you like that scene?
I mean, I guess the only thing I'd say is it's funny how in season 2, we never really got, I feel like, the climactic Cooper against Wyndham Earl. Like, I never felt like you get that final battle. And in a way, you didn't get that with Mr. C and Cooper. It's funny, like, Mr. C is already on the ground, so, like, you never get that face-off between the 2 Coopers. Like, I think that's the only thing I was missing. I would have liked to have had an exchange and said, you have Cooper being like, I don't know what he would say. He'd say something like, "You don't belong here," and then Mr. C could kind of say something. I mean, it's kind of your typical, big battle.
Exactly.
I know they don't do anything typical. I mean, they always go their own way.
But Ben, you hit it right on the nose for me. This is why it was satisfying in the story sense of meeting Freddy and then having Freddy do this, because we all saw it coming. But in the grand scheme of Twin Peaks, this is the most unlike Twin Peaks thing, because I don't think
is that kind of a superhero type thing?
Yeah, it felt cliche. I'm gonna say we knew there was gonna be a battle, and there was, and here's my issue is, first of all, why do we care about Freddy? We don't. We only met him a couple episodes ago. I have no attachment to Freddy. None of us really do. He's a cool guy. Interesting story about this magical glove, which is interesting on its own, but are we going to be talking about this for 25? Is this something that's going to seep into the conversation of the lore? I don't think so. I don't care really about this magical glove or Freddy. So when Freddy is the one that has to stand up to Bob, it doesn't make sense. You were right. What I was thinking, it should have been Cooper versus Mr. C. That is the big payoff that people have been waiting for 25 years. We got Freddy, a new guy that we were just introduced to, come in and punch the crap out of this flying orb, which I think it would have been more satisfying if we actually saw Mr. C and Cooper exchange. I don't feel like it was satisfying in the overall story sense. It felt very predictable. Like, we knew Freddy was gonna win. I didn't
think it was predictable because I expected Cooper and Mr. C to battle. So if anything, it was unpredictable because Cooper didn't have as much involvement.
But the moment we saw Freddy with that glove and he tells the story, I was like, oh, he was sent to punch Mr. C in the face. He was going to do something to Mr. C.
Right. And actually ended up being Bob. Same sense.
And also, here's the other thing I wasn't a big fan of. Bob is evil. How can a green glove defeat all evil?
Right.
It's the evil that men do. I feel like he defeated him, but he didn't kill him.
Right. I'm sure maybe he goes back to the spirit world. Who knows?
But I always felt Twin Peaks was about drama and about the emotional. That's why I liked 18 more. There was that mystery and the drama and all that stuff. I felt like this went a little over the top story-wise. Like, I don't know. Like I said, overall, I liked it. I liked it visually. I enjoyed the whole fight scene. But I think overall, the whole story arc, it should have been Cooper and Mr. C. I don't think Freddy should not have existed at all. I don't know. I feel he existed only to fight and actually defeat something. But Twin Peaks is not about defeating something physically. It's all about this emotional or mentally or all, Laura overcame Bob by letting herself succumb to letting herself die. And that's a horrible way of doing it, but she did it. She overcame it. I don't know. I would have been great to see Cooper and Mr. C mentally chasing each other again like we did in season 2 and having some sort of confrontation in the Red Room.
So now I'll go the opposite way just to play devil's advocate.
Okay.
Well, I will say, and this was Dougie, and I feel like this is again with Cooper. Cooper is good at bringing people together in some ways. It was Cooper that yelled to Freddy. It's like, "Are you Freddy?" Like, he knew that was Freddy's destiny. That Freddy didn't have a purpose. He didn't have a means. He didn't have a home. He didn't really have a place to, feel like he belonged.
Yeah.
And the fireman gave him a job, and he came here to do it, and he felt like he had a purpose and stuff. So I feel like, at least if we look at Cooper, he seems like he doesn't always have to take the spotlight. He's willing to look at other people around him and say, this is what you were meant to do.
I get that. But I just think, for me, seeing them chase each other in season 2 and not having that ending point for both of them seemed weird to give us a new character to do that.
It is.
It is weird.
It is.
I mean, like I said, I liked it. I thought David Lynch did a great job filming it. I didn't find it cringeworthy. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. I knew it was going to happen. I just didn't. The overall payoff for me wasn't there. It didn't do anything for me.
Right.
Right? I enjoyed. I don't think I don't think Freddy's character is something people are going to be talking about. To me, anyway, he was not that memorable. Like, he's the guy who literally punched Bob to pieces.
Yep.
And to me, that's too straightforward. This is why I like the ending of 18, because it's not straightforward.
Cool.
So.
I meant to say this at the beginning of the show, that, go back to David Lynch's quote about keep your eye on the donut, not on the hole.
Yes, which is something we've been saying,
Yeah, and when I think
quote.
about that quote, it says, to me, it means focus what is there and not about what is missing. Because I think sometimes we do want to, sometimes we put so much attention on our theories that we miss some of the points that they're getting to. And I actually look at Laura. Laura didn't have a place to go. I don't know.
The cabin was the closest place. Cabin.
Oh, we're talking about if you consider Leo and Jacques.
That was kind of her family. It was a dysfunctional family.
Yeah, right.
But when druggies or alcoholics, they consider the bar their home.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like Cheers was a home to a bunch of drunks.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
to Laura,
but I think if now, if she still existed, and I've been also thinking about who sucked around Red Room. It's funny today. I was thinking, is it possible it's the fireman? Is it possible he's manipulating things at some point? Originally I thought it was evil, or I thought it was related to the glass box, and now I don't know.
Do you almost wonder? I was thinking about this. You ever read Mad magazine when you were younger?
Sure.
And the last page was always one of those folding. So it was a picture, and then you would fold it in fours, and then it would make a dirty picture with those two with the two ends together and make a different picture. I wonder if this is similar season 3 style, where we can just fold out all that middle Dougie stuff and watch episodes maybe 1, 2, maybe 3. I got to rewatch it to really remember, and then jump right into maybe 16, 17, and 18, it would make one cohesive movie. Because David Lynch did say you can watch these out of order.
Sure.
And I'm almost wondering if you cut those out, you just cut out that Dougie stuff and the town stuff, and you'd almost have a Fire Walk with Me kind of feel.
Maybe. And it's funny because, I struggled with it week after week because I just wanted our old Cooper back. But I also see now the value of having Dougie. I see the value of, it was Cooper going on his journey to see what was important, what was his likes and his dislikes, and what meant the most to him. And for him, it was still his work, his passion to do the right thing and to do good. That it still ended up the same I think he was 25 years ago. But I feel like you need that journey.
Yeah.
Because I remember even, before the series started, it's how are they going to bring Cooper back? He's so messed up. He's been gone for 25 years. You're going to start saying, this is a cell phone, or this is, are you trying to start telling, this is the internet, and trying to get him into the world again. And I thought it was, in a way, it's a creative way to have him be this other character and just kind of bobble along in the world.
And here's a theory I'll throw at you, Ben. Do you think in the very beginning when he's sitting there with the giant and the giant says it's okay, you can go back down, you can leave now? What if, because there's no time in this world, what if that whole time he's sitting there with the giant was Dougie time? And then when he says it's okay, you can leave now, that's when he wakes up from the coma.
I like that. I do feel like that seems like the most perfect spot is to, yes, to me that's
that's how I kind of see it.
If I were to edit this, that's exactly where I would put it. I would put it right before he wakes up. So he got electrocuted. When he got electrocuted, he went to the White Lodge and was able to talk with the giant. And then he was, that to me is the perfect spot to put it.
And Mike saying...
He downloads all the information and is ready to do his mission now.
Yeah, and Philip Gerard saying, don't die. It's almost saying, listen, you cannot die during all this. A lot of obstacles go on your way. But I kind of almost wonder if that's when he goes into the coma, don't die. We need you. Right. This is going to help wake you up.
Yeah.
And he built a team... Dougie built a team, but also I look at the whole Dougie stuff. This was an opportunity for Mark Frost and David Lynch to give us 16, 15 episodes of Twin Peaks, because once 17 rolls around, it's really all about, Cooper and Diane and everybody. But I kind of feel like that whole journey also allowed us, storytelling-wise, to give us Twin Peaks. Maybe... if we didn't get these 18 episodes and it was 8, we wouldn't have gotten as much as we've gotten. And I appreciate that. I appreciate all that, yeah.
So as much as I love Audrey and Cooper together, that didn't happen. And my question then is Diane Cooper's true love? Like,
yes, I think so.
And in some ways, I guess it always makes sense. I mean, like, he spoke to her every day through his recorder, and like he had this intimate, like he would share things he'd never shared with anybody else.
And they were on a date. We found out from the book.
Yeah, the book. They went out at least for once. I think they had duck.
I had duck once.
Yeah. So I mean, they did have something there, but it was interesting. Like they kissed a lot in these two parts. I mean, like they kissed when they first saw each other. And at the original kiss, I was like, okay, this is to confirm that Cooper is Cooper, and Diane.
She felt it.
She felt it.
The electricity was there.
Right.
Yes.
So I got that. But then we were kissing in the car.
Well, that was to say goodbye. To me, that's the last time they really saw each other.
Yeah, maybe so.
I
felt there was a lot of kissing. I was like, wow, these guys are passionate.
Yeah, well, because they say to each other, I mean, this is it. We don't know who we're going to be coming out of this, or we're going to remember. In the whole sex scene, I don't think it was them. Well, Cooper remembers who he is, but I don't think she does. But to me, that was like a goodbye kiss.
Yeah.
That was the credits would roll right there, freeze frame style,
Right.
The end.
I know what I feel, but I want to see if you feel the same way. Why was Cooper and Diane in the car? Like, what was the heck was that about? He gets out, he's trying to figure out where he is.
Well, he mentions we're at 430.
Yep.
430 miles, exactly.
Yes.
And that's a number that's run. Well, we have the at White Sands, we had the blast. We had the atomic bomb at 430. Yeah. There's 430's been mentioned a lot. So this was some sort of, Philip Gerard kept saying, electricity was the key. And they were following the gigantic electrical wires.
Which was in Andy's vision.
Yes. So I think they found the spots that was going to allow them to go over into, that's why to me it feels like they're entering a different world.
I know. All right. Why are they doing that though? Why are they driving there? Like, what is their mission? Their
mission for Cooper, because he couldn't change the past of Laura Palmer, I feel he feels the need that maybe he can go into her dream to tell her, to give her clues, to say, hey, something bad's going to happen. That's, I perceived it. He's become the, this agent who's going to go into the brain. He can't change something that's actually happened, but maybe subconsciously he can live inside of her to say, listen, X, Y, and Z is going to happen. You need to, I'm going to help you escape.
Yeah, so I like that. And I think that it really was back to Leland Palmer saying, find Laura, that this was, I mean, it's amazing that it's taken 16 parts or however long, but we go back to part 2 with Leland saying, find Laura. And now that the whole Mr. C storyline is over with, he's on to his next part of it, that he's got to go find Laura.
That's why I'm saying you can fold this whole season up and go from find Laura to finding Laura. This whole middle part was a journey.
He's got to find himself before he can find Laura.
Aha, I like that. He did find himself.
He did.
But yeah, I think that's his whole mission is to
and he did. I do believe
Laura somehow.
He did find Laura. I do believe he found Laura.
Me too.
As in
Carrie Page. And Carrie Page, Scott mentioned something at the round table I didn't think of, how the fourth page was missing and her last name was Page.
I thought that. And I know that's a very popular thought.
I didn't think about that. I'm like,
The thing is, I don't think Hawk is very literal. I don't think Hawk was like, it could also be a person. I mean, like, Hawk was very much like, we had 4 pages, we found 3, and 1 is still missing. So that, at least in a literal sense, I feel like there's still that 4th page. And I like the idea of maybe going back to Donna Hayward having that last page. But who knows?
Who knows?
But I like the idea that I think we did find Laura, and it took to the very last scene for her to wake up.
It felt like a movie. It really, that last episode to me felt like a very short and sweet David Lynch movie. A lot of driving, a lot of staring.
A lot of Lost Highway.
A lot of Lost Highway. But I really, really liked it. And I could probably watch that last episode 1,000,000 times and get something different out of it. And maybe my theory will change. But I'm glad you have a different take and I have a slightly different take. I think ultimately we have the same message
Yes.
We just have different takes, and I think that's so great about his work. It's a work of art. We're gonna project something onto it from what we feel, and that's what we're gonna get out of it. That's just how it works usually. But I like all the different things people have been posting on our Facebook page. Has been amazing. Oh man, we got some great, people have posted some really cool things.
That is awesome.
I did my best. I didn't want to look at anybody else's theories. I wanted to have my own. I mean, you only get this once. That first initial reaction, and then you come up with what you think, and then you go online. Because you only have it once. And then after my opinion and theories might change over time depending on hearing other people's. And I might like, ooh, that works in my theory.
Totally.
I like that. So it's really cool.
There's so many different things that you rewatch it, and to me it makes connections. Cooper's talking about how he's going to see everybody again one day. And then I think that's where he says it. At one point, he says...
Very Wizard of Oz-ish.
Very Wizard of Oz, to bring all these characters. At some point, he says things are going to change, but he basically says that to Hawk. And it's funny because Hawk had that whole conversation with the log lady, and she mentions about how things are going to change, as in death. And stuff. And I was trying to say, is there some kind of a connection to life ending?
Well, when he said, I'll meet you...
I hope to see you again.
I hope to see you again. I kind of felt like I'll see you on the other side. Because if he was the dream world, his head being superimposed, part of me was like, is this showing us that he's taking it all in? He's memorizing everything so that when he starts jumping, he won't lose his memories. Jeffrey seems to be a little confused at times.
Yes.
Will Cooper do his best to not lose his mind?
Right. Oh, they were stuck.
And he was stuck.
The clock was stuck in time too. Like we were.
Yeah, 3:45.
2:58.
Oh,
maybe?
2:58.
Yeah.
Oh,
I bet you it's
it's almost 3 o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was still interesting that we were kind of like in the stuck in time.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
And we got to see everybody in one room together, which was really cool.
It was.
It felt like Wizard of Oz. It felt like,
there's no place like home.
When Dorothy wakes up and everybody's in the room. That sort of scenario.
Totally. And we get that a few times with him in the coma. We've had that before. And the 315 key
it opens the boiler room.
Which is where James was going to.
Which we didn't know what James did. He went in there and heard a whoosh, 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 which is the fan noise. The whoosh, whoosh is the fan. I put two and two together. Finally.
I mean, there's a lot of cricket sounds to me, chirping sounds throughout the show.
Interesting, the chirping noise when Laura disappears, when Cooper's leading her, and you hear that cricket, kind of reminds me of the first episode.
Definitely.
And it reminds me of episode 8.
Yes.
They do that cricket noise too.
There's something's not right. It's this whole like the idea of this frog creature thing that it doesn't belong here. And just like that house, the whole Palmer house, that whatever Sarah is doesn't belong there.
Now, I kind of felt satisfied by seeing Sarah Palmer when when Cooper is sort of trying to change the past, it defeats Mother in a way.
Yeah,
there's
so many different ways to look at it. Maybe Sarah wanted to confront Laura, and in a way, whatever this whole thing happened, Laura got out of her reach. Another way to interpret it is if we look at the real Sarah Palmer grieving. Lost. I mean, it's funny because I think about Leland. Remember Leland dancing with the pitcher and then smashing it and breaking it? I mean, it kind of was a parallel to me for that as well. That grief of losing your child and smashing.
But yeah, she hits the photos of Donna and Laura and everything onto the ground. She starts stomping it, and I was almost wondering like.
But it was going back and forth. It was time.
That was really. It was like
cool.
stuck.
Yes.
Stuck in time, just like the clock, just like her TV.
Yeah, stuck in time.
You're stuck in time.
Right.
You're stuck in this world. You're stuck in pain.
Yes.
Maybe pain makes you feel like time has stands still and you can't get past it. Is this allowing Sarah Palmer to move on?
I don't think so. I don't know.
I mean, she's like destroying the.
I mean, we end with her moaning, and calling out to Laura. I think she's still in pain. I think Laura's in pain.
Is Mother out of her, though? What's that?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I feel like that if we were to have a season 4, I think that the big baddie would be Mother, and that would be the final. Do you know about that scene of Laura and Cooper going up the stairs to the Palmer house? So I think it was TMZ actually leaked it, and then, you know, me just going to Twitter, I accidentally ran into that picture of Cooper walking up with Laura to the Palmer house.
I remember seeing something, but I immediately forgot it, and I stayed away. And I didn't know what it pertained to.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was going to be the end of this. It was so quick, and I shut it off so quick. In my head, I imagined Laura with long hair, and she was wearing a dress, and it was like this beautiful, like almost like a bride coming to the, you know. When I saw, for some reason, I imagined it as being a beautiful thing where Laura is. Because I didn't know anything about the monster or the experiment, so I imagined it was a beautiful thing where Laura was going to meet her mom, and it was going to be happily ever after.
I don't think anything is ever. I mean, we had some happy moments for people, but the overall story arc with Laura doesn't seem to be happy.
Yeah,
doesn't seem to be happy. So yeah, I mean,
and you know.
I feel emotionally drained right now.
It is. I mean, and I feel like we have so much more we could talk about. It can go on and on and on.
Yeah.
There's still like
we got a lot to talk. I mean, a lot to unpack. I think we could go another 3 years with just this episode alone.
Yeah.
This is gonna be good. I like it.
Totally.
And this is why I think this is a good ending. It was a good season finale. It was a good ending to a story because we're still talking about it. We're still thinking about it. If you hate it, awesome. If you loved it, great. I think those are all great emotions to have about something. If we all walked away and we all satisfied, there's nothing to talk about.
Right.
If this show had ended after that battle with Freddy and the orb, what's there to talk about? But it didn't, and I like that. I like how they gave us that one battle in the very beginning, and they gave us this big meaty thing to think about.
And people have said it's kind of like 17 was the end of the season, and then they kind of give you like a sneak preview of a new season if they were going to do that, or basically the next chapter in the story.
Yeah, I sort of agree. I agree. I agree in a sense of storytelling. It leads to something else, but then I also disagree because I see it as that's the true ending for me.
Yeah.
If this show never came back, it's a great ending. It works, but it works on both levels. So I agree. I totally agree with that, and at the same time, I'm totally happy with if it were to end. That's a great ending.
I want Laura to have a happy ending, but it comes close to happy ending in the sense that at least she has Cooper by her side. We've had the whole dream world in the original series, and you had Cooper trying to save her, or at least solve the mystery, and then in Fire Walk with Me, he's there to say don't take the ring, and he's there at the end with the angels, and then for them to both be physical beings and be there together, unsure of where they're going or who they are or what's happening, but they're there together. I mean, in that sense, you couldn't ask for a better ending.
Yeah, I think it's cool because yet again we're ending with Laura and Cooper. It goes back to Laura and Cooper.
Yes.
Firewalk with Me ended that way, and yeah, I think you're right. I think it's very satisfying to see them together. It was so confusing that first time. It was like, what year is it? And I was like, what the hell did I just see? But by the third time, it's like, oh, I got it. I didn't hear that was Sarah Palmer saying Laura.
My wife missed it too.
Yeah, the first time I was like, what?
I heard it right away, and I was like, whoa. And then
and the lights go out.
So, yes, I was just gonna say that. So it's like not only that, it's almost like the jig is up. Like the Tremons who live there, who could actually be spirits, related to the grandmother and the grandson. Maybe it's almost like, oh, she knows, and she's screaming, and then they're kind of like, okay, the
jig
house goes black.
The whole time, Laura's, to me, she looks very apprehensive and very like this could break any moment.
Yes.
And interesting enough, for people who don't know, the woman who answers the door is the real person who owns that house.
Yeah,
we met them, and her husband was the one mumbling behind the door.
Oh.
And we knew they were going to be in the show somehow, somewhere.
They couldn't say what. And so we actually visited the Palmer house when we were at the this Twin Peaks festival. We got to go in
Laura's room.
We got to go in Laura's room.
We saw the axe.
Room. Yes.
So the axe from Fire Walk with Me, they left it in the basement. And then when the people...
crew left it, right?
The crew left it. And then they moved in. They said, do you guys want this back? And they said, no, you guys can keep it. So when people do the tour, they have the axe. The axe is right there on the floor. The fan. We saw the fan. We saw Laura's room. We actually saw the TV that Sarah Palmer is watching in this season.
Yes.
It is massive.
Yes.
And there's a cool thing on Facebook, which it is the woman who owns the house. I can't think of her name now.
I believe it's Mary.
Mary, yeah. She has a picture of herself in front of her TV with herself.
Yeah, very cool.
It's
They
very
did a great
cool.
job. They did a wonderful job.
I think we're going to have John Thorne on.
Yeah, John Thorne's going to come on. We'll get to talk to him a little bit. I know he's been doing the circuit. I mean, he's been everywhere. He's been on Entertainment Weekly's podcast. He's been all over the place. And I know he's busy with the Blue Rose magazine, but I think he's going to give us a little bit of time to talk about this. So why don't we talk to him? So, John, I want to ask you, what was your reaction? Your first reaction to seeing the end of Twin Peaks here?
Yeah, my first reactions.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. I mean, the first hour was really intense, and sort of that dramatic build-up and that confrontation. And my heart was beating, and so there was a lot of that excitement and then release in the first hour.
Right.
And then the second hour, which, sort of started near the end of the first hour when Cooper goes back into past and starts to alter history, and then gets Laura and loses Laura, and then is off on a different kind of journey. That was like watching Mulholland Drive.
Yeah.
And I recall the experience of watching Mulholland Drive, where you're suddenly very disoriented, and you're attempting to find your balance again and put the pieces together. Really trying to grasp at the narrative to try to understand what's happening. And with Mulholland Drive coming out uncertain, and then coming out of Twin Peaks, certainly unsure of what just happened, and that was okay. That was okay with me.
Yeah.
I wasn't surprised. I think I tweeted this out. I'm not surprised by this surprising ending, because I expected Lynch to do something like this. I couldn't have predicted it, but something that was going to challenge our notion of the whole narrative and the character's place in the narrative. So that's what he did, and I don't know where it's going to go. It's over, but it's not over. There's so much more now to start to piece together.
To me, it felt so much like a cliffhanger, like a season finale cliffhanger than a series finale. I want to believe, does Frost and Lynch know something we don't know?
That was very interesting, and in some ways it was almost a brilliant way. I don't think there's going to be more. Or I will say that when they completed this, they weren't like, okay, well then we'll pick it up again. Well, the intent wasn't there to revisit it, to complete it. I believe Lynch felt it was a complete work.
Yeah.
So the brilliance comes in that he was able to essentially supply us with a cliffhanger, but in his mind it's a complete work. So for me, the challenge is to accept that it is a complete work, and then to try to understand why it is a complete work. It's the same thing that happened with me with Mulholland Drive. I mentioned that, but also Firewalk with Me. And as you know, we've talked about that a lot. I struggled with Firewalk with Me for years and years, trying to make sense of particularly the first 30 minutes, but also later parts, and how does this really work? It seems open, and it seems overly complex. And so I came to have an understanding about Firewalk with Me over a great deal of time, felt very confident that it worked. I think that will happen with this new show, but it's for me anyway, going to take a long time.
Yeah, for me, it kind of hurts my brain that it seemed like they were leading up to things. They structured it. We had this experiment, and we have this glass box,
Yeah.
and we have all these things in place. And like, I don't even understand what Mr. C's plan was all along. Really, I don't know what he was like. Was he meant to go to Jack Rabbit's palace right there nearby? Like I don't understand what the heck what his whole master plan was.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a really, really good question. It's worth examining that. He did say he wanted what was on that Ace of Spades. And,
Right.
We also know that same image was on Major Briggs's note and also on Hawk's map.
That's true.
Plus, so the idea, at least in my mind, was whatever that was,
Yeah.
and I think I know what it was accessible through some portal near Twin Peaks. The map and Briggs, Jack Rabbit's place, and all of that
right.
seemed to point toward that would be the place. I think that thing that he wanted was Experiment.
Yeah.
The creature that we've seen now really 3 times, which the box, the part 8, and then I think Andy saw it in his vision. So that's what I think he wanted. Now, the giant diverted him. He got in, and the giant diverted him to the sheriff's station, which I think ultimately the giant had positioned a number of, particularly he had positioned Freddie Sykes, I think, there, so that Mr. C would fail. Bob would essentially be defeated, and then that would prevent Mr. C from going any further. So that's a weird thing that happened there, because the giant essentially rerouted him, right?
Yes.
It looked like,
oh yeah.
Where did it was the Palmer house at first, right? Like Mr. C, or at least on that.
He was looking at it at one point, but I think he was right. It looks like a slide presentation, and he was going through things, and and at the time, Mr. C's in like a jail, and then he puts him at the sheriff's station.
The giant seems to be, the one who has some control over how things are going, and he prevented Mr. C, I think, from getting to the Palmer house. So what was at the Palmer house? Well, Sarah Palmer, with whatever was in her, and I guess there's some way you could say she was Experiment. Experiment had somehow, got into her. I don't know, and I just, my theories now are from one viewing. I've only seen it one time, and that's on purpose. I know a lot of people have seen it multiple times, and I will see it over and over again, but it was like a really strong flavor. You could only taste a little bit of it, and then I need to wait before I go back to it. It was too overwhelming to view again soon. Now,
John, I'm completely with you too. I mean, I'm right there with you. Bryon watched it 3 times over, meaning that he watched it 6 hours of rewatching.
Wow.
I don't. Yeah. He was pumped for it, but it was funny. I said to everybody, "I was like, yeah, I think I'll rewatch it," and then instead I went to Twitter and social media and just kind of texted people. And I just wanted to get a sense of what other people were feeling, and that's what I did that evening instead of really rewatching. And now I've kind of I have a DVR and I have streaming, so I watch little pieces just to remind myself of stuff. But I haven't gone in and watched it fully again.
Same here. I did the exact same thing. I've been on a lot of stuff on the internet and getting a sense. It's interesting to see how theories are evolving over the days. Some people are tending to go one way, and then there's some push another way. Or that's the resonance of this work, is that it's making us think and expand our thoughts and think new theories and expand, encompass it all.
And I was going to say with the fireman there, I feel like he orchestrated a lot of it. He also, of course, orchestrated also Andy, and I feel like that whole thing with Andy moving the chair for Mr. C to get him a chair, I feel like he put that there purposely to then orchestrate Lucy. And I feel like he actually kind of rounded everybody up to be in the right place at the right time.
Yes, I mean, Andy was a key player. Andy got NATO into the jail so that NATO would be safe. You would think that what would have happened if they had not gone to Jack Rabbit's place, NATO would have been laying in the ground, and Mr. C would have found her.
Right.
And so they were able to retrieve her. Andy knew that she needed to be protected, so they put her in the jail. And then, of course, Freddie Sykes had been contacted by the giant, and I would say maneuvered in a way that he ended up in the jail as well. So you've got Nato, Andy, and Freddie there, and all the pieces are in place to make it harder for Mr. C to maybe get what he wanted. And that's his part 17. The real confusing stuff happens later.
There's people I'm reading that think that Cooper changed history. I mean, he seems to me like he was about to change history, where he was in Firewalk with Me time and talked to Laura and he took her by the hand, and then she kind of disappeared. So I feel like she still died and still was wrapped in plastic, and all this stuff still happened. What is your feeling about that?
I don't know yet. I was reading that as potentially Laura disappeared. Obviously, they never found the body, but the trauma of her disappearance would have still resonated. It still would have been a mystery. There still would have, where did she go? What happened to her? And it would have impacted the town in a similar way as her death. It would have been her disappearance. And so many of the plot lines could conceivably have gone in the same direction.
For me, I'm still thinking that she did actually still get murdered and she still get wrapped in plastic, because, I mean, they showed Pete Martell going fishing, but then they go back to Cooper and Laura, and that's when he loses her. And I feel like if he had kept on bringing her, which he said he was going to bring her home, whatever that meant, but he seemed like he was leading her away. And if he maybe succeeded in doing that, I felt like, that would have been the timeline. But I mean, that's the great thing about the show. You don't know. I mean, it's not clear.
What bothers me now is that Laura was taken by Cooper before she meets up with Ronette and Leo and Jacques. And then, of course, is kidnapped and brought to the train car. And in Firewalk with Me, we come to understand that Laura triumphs, I think.
Right.
She is not afraid anymore of Bob. She won't let Bob take him. She puts the ring on, which essentially prevents them from getting her. And she sees her angels. And so there is a reading, anyway, that Laura was triumphant. Laura succeeded. Laura beat her demons. Laura felt she was a worthy being. That was all removed. If Cooper takes her away and then she disappears, she never had that.
Right.
She never had that happen to her. So then I wonder what happened to Laura at that point. She disappeared. Did she, like you say, maybe she didn't, maybe she ended up, all of that still happened, right? She ended up dying, or was something more significant changed at that point? Did she go somewhere else and experience something else? I don't know. I'll be watching it over and over to try to map out some of these things. But it's curious to me that Lynch would have perhaps rejected that ending of Firewalk with Me, that something I think he was pleased with, and something that he worked hard to get to, and then he's throwing it away.
What has your whole overall experience felt like to be able to have the summer of Twin Peaks?
Oh, well, I mean, this has been a great summer. There'll never be another summer of TV like this for me. I mean, the anticipation every week and the build-up and the excitement and seeing it play out over the week, having people talk about it. People will continue to talk about it, but I'm happy with the overall 18 hours. It will take a long time. I keep coming back to saying that, but I mean, I think it's important to say it will take a long time for us to wrap our hands and our brains around this full work.
Yeah.
So now it's a different thing. Now it's no longer a weekly installment, and we're seeing the pieces, but not the whole thing. Now we have the whole thing, and we have control over how we watch it. We can watch it not only in large chunks, but we can watch it if we want out of order. I've done this on Twitter, and I don't have any fully worked out theories yet, but I'm wondering if some of the events that happened in Part 18 actually happened earlier, and Part 18 can almost be watched first. First draft theories that I have not had time in any way to polish or think through. But if we watch Part 18 first, and then we go straight into Part 1, we have the giant sitting there talking to Cooper, and he would say, remember, 430, Richard and Linda, two birds with one stone. And watching that, we would have said, okay, I just saw that. So I know what he's talking. I know what he's talking about. And Cooper says, I understand. So to me, it's almost as if that Cooper says, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I remember that. My first reading, and I think everybody's reading, of the giant saying, remember these things, he's saying, here's something brand new you need to remember.
Yeah.
And now I'm wondering if he's saying, okay, look, remember those things? You know, almost asking him or telling him you got to remember these important things that happened to you in the past. And Cooper's like, yeah, I understand. And then he disappears. I am wondering if that Cooper who disappeared is the Cooper that is superimposed over the final events in the sheriff's station.
Yeah, in 17.
Appears. And when I saw that face appear, I thought that's the Cooper from the first scene.
Wow.
That's the Cooper who has now come back. So does that essentially somehow end the story there? If we were to make it, we remove the part 18 around to the beginning and watch it, does it give it a happier ending? Does it, or
maybe.
Does it say this is these events here are really where we want to stop? I don't know.
I keep trying to wrestle with it. To me, it feels like the series didn't complete itself. Like I kept on wrestling with that. Where there's so many different things, so many different threads, and the only thing that I keep coming back to, it feels like every single part has this whole idea of home, which to me, home is about being a comfort, love, a secure, safe environment. But it's like Dougie says it, and I mean, I even think about Wally coming back and, this is my room and stuff. So there's all these different... The last thing we're left with is Carrie or Laura. I still think she's Laura. She's going to be brought to her home, and she can't be because Sarah's not there. Right. So it's kind of like you can't go home. You can't... I don't know. I keep wrestling with it.
I think you're on. That's one of many, many themes and ideas that this show explores. And that's the beauty of Twin Peaks. This Twin Peaks did not say, it's about this one thing. There are layers upon layers of ideas and abstractions and themes that are incorporated into this work. It's not just one thing. It's all these many things commingling and supporting one another. So yes, I think you're absolutely right. It's about the value of home or the inability to go home or trying to redefine what home really is. But then, of course, there's so many other things that it's about aging. It's about loss. It's about, in some ways, it's about kindness.
Yeah, definitely.
So there's a lot. There's so much to unpack. I mean, just today, I texted you. Somebody online pointed out the Orpheus myth. Robert Wolf, give him a shout out, pointed it out to me, and then I looked up more about it. And of course, the story of Orpheus is that he goes into the land of the dead to save his wife, and he leads her out by the hand, but he can't look back. And if he looks back, she's lost, and he does at some point look back, and she's pulled back into the land of the dead. Well, that almost is exactly what happened.
Right.
In effect, Cooper went to find a dead girl, even though she was alive when he found her in the past. As far as we're concerned, Laura's dead, and he went back and he tried to lead her out.
Yeah.
And he turned back, and she was whisked away. So there's that myth, and then of course there's someone pointed out to me today how Odessa, the town in Texas that features prominently at the end, essentially the word Odyssey. And then there's the story of the Odyssey and how it parallels some of what happened in that myth as well. So I don't know enough about it to talk intelligently, but all these things are incorporated into Twin Peaks, and they all allow us to see it in a different way and give us a lot to research and reconfigure it in our mind.
Definitely. Yeah, and what's strange is that 17 and 18 to me mirror each other. You have Cooper taking Laura by the hand in 17, and then we get to 18 with the whole Palmer house, and Cooper is taking her by the hand. And in both times, we have Sarah moaning. In 17 we have a cut to inside the house with Sarah moaning and smashing the pitcher, and then in 18 we hear that at the end Sarah,
right.
And then we have Laura screaming in both 17 and 18. So there's something going on here. It's weird. It's like a mirror of them. Like Cooper's trying twice to resolve this.
Twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something about that Cooper, and maybe Cooper is, and then this gets to the myth of Sisyphus, who always has to push the rock up the hill, but he can never get it to the top, and it rolls back down again.
Yeah.
I mean, do we have that mythology, too, where Cooper tries and tries and tries to save Laura, but it's impossible to do. It's an impossible task. He could never do it. And so...
And Jeffries, the teapot, Jeffries makes an 8, which I was saying to Bryon that it's like the infinity sign or something. Like maybe we're just going in a loop over and over again here.
Oh, I think there's a lot to that. But the other interesting thing about that, you mentioned the idea of the mirror, one mirroring the other.
Yes.
Jeffries creates the 8, and then, of course, a little round sphere or ball.
Yeah, black ball or something.
That's inside the 8, but then the 8 pivots completely around on its y-axis. It completely pivots around, and the ball is now positioned on the opposite side, which is a mirror image of what it was. So there's this implication of mirroring. And of course, the show has also always dealt with mirrors in some way. I mean, we know Josie starts the show with a mirror and Cooper ends the show with a mirror.
Right.
The original series. And Laura sees her mirrored reflection in Fire Walk with Me when she goes up to the roadhouse. I mean, all of those things are vitally important to the idea of an opposite or something that looks like what it should be, but it's different. And so anyway... It's kind of a clumsy way, but it gets to what you were saying, the idea that maybe it was a mirror universe in some way. And again, I don't want to give it those simplistic definitions, but for the sake of conversation, we don't really have a choice. So the mirroring has got me curious too, what we might see there.
Yeah, that's something. Well, I think we're out of time, but am I right to say that the Blue Rose magazine has gone off to print?
Yes. We just wrote, all this stuff. We didn't know where it was going. And so we attempted to at least signal to our readers that we know Part 18 kind of shifts the ground underneath us, and it's still worth thinking about these episodes, the way we were thinking about them. I think it's been very strong. I think it's a pretty good issue. I'm very happy with it. So yes, it's off to press.
Awesome, that's so cool. And you've been doing the circuit. I mean, you've been all over the place. I know you were on Entertainment Weekly's podcast. Where else? Where else? You've been a few different places, I think.
25 Years Later site had an interview with me.
Nice.
The Entertainment Weekly was really, really very nice because I think I reached a big audience there. I know my sales for my book, went up, and
awesome.
I think sales for the magazine went up. So we reached some people who may not have known. And I like the guys at Entertainment Weekly. They're not just trying to talk about Twin Peaks because it's a fad. They're very, very into it. They really take it
they're
seriously.
Fans.
They're fans, and just like you and Bryon and Scott and Josh, and then the guys at the 25 Years Later site, and I know I'm missing the Diane podcast. And,
there's so many of them.
And I apologize because I know there's dozens of other really, really good resources out there. Everyone's thinking about it, taking it seriously, and wanting to grapple with it, and I love that. I just love it. It's fun.
We've got a great community. I really enjoyed you being on the show, so the EW show there. So that was awesome.
Oh, thanks.
I'm sure you'll be involved in a lot of other things over time with Twin Peaks here, and it's exciting times.
I was happy with the way it ended. I really was happy that it was so open, because had it concluded with a little more definitiveness, then it doesn't have the same afterlife. As good of a show as Breaking Bad is, and I love it, it has a very conclusive ending. Twin Peaks is a whole different thing. It was ambiguous throughout, but then the ending itself leaves so much open. It allows us you'll be doing podcasts for years to come. We'll be writing. I'll be thinking about it. And I felt like it just added all this fuel to the interest in Twin Peaks. We're going to be able to talk about it. People are going to come up with new ideas and say, well, I just thought of this. What about this? And take it down a path. And all of that, it enriches the work. And I think there's nothing else like Twin Peaks. I'm glad it ended the way it did.
I love it, and I wish we had more. I wish we could get more.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, thank you, John. Can you tell people how can they follow you? Tell them, mention your book, and mention, of course, the Blue Rose magazine.
Blue Rose magazine. It's the bluerosemag.com. There's 3 issues now out. You can subscribe and find out all about it there. My book, The Essential Wrapped in Plastic, on Amazon. You can get it there. And then follow me on Twitter at thornewip.
Thanks, John Thorne, for being on today's show. I'm sorry I couldn't be part of it. With podcast magic, I had to step out and go to work. And now I'm back from work. But I'm sure John had some awesome insight. And Blue Rose Magazine, issue 3, coming out soon.
Yeah.
And it's going to have some John Thorne's
specialty guide. I think the first 10 parts he's going to be focused on, but I know that he was going to look it over again right after the series. So
very special.
Very special.
So I do have one bit of community feedback. We're on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. This show gets posted on YouTube when it goes out onto Podbean. So if you're part of the YouTube community, we appreciate all the feedback you give us. But this is an email we just got on September 5th from Stuart. Stuart says, theory, spoilers, just finished season 3. I have not read the book, so I need you guys to help me out here. But I have a theory that perhaps this book takes place within the alternative universe that Cooper and Diane enter, with the alternative Laura Palmer Cooper as Richard. That may explain the inconsistencies. I would greatly appreciate if you guys can confirm or deny if these things may add up. That was a good question for you, Ben.
Yeah, so there's no mention of Richard or Linda in the Secret History of Twin Peaks. But there's definitely, we've all talked about who've read the book, could this be an alternate universe? I mean, there's definitely talk about that. I want to believe that it's that the documents have been doctored, that they're frauds maybe. But yeah, there's one theory, there's definitely theories out there that this could be an alternate universe, and it's quite possible Richard and Linda live in this world and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's mostly focused to the Twin Peaks part. I mean, definitely there's some changed history in the parts where that focus on the characters of Twin Peaks. So I think that's quite possible, and we might learn more through the final dossier that's coming out in October by Mark Frost.
Go read The Secret History of Twin Peaks, and the final dossier comes out in October.
And I want to reread it. There's definitely things in there that I feel could help out with the series. I really do love the whole government and the whole Trinity experiment, which seems is the same bomb that lets loose the experiment or is part of that whole thing. So I like to reread it, and I still think there's these rituals going on in the deserts that seem to let out this Antichrist. So I think that's a fascinating thing, and that's only a small part of the book, but there's definitely some nuggets in there that could link to the new series.
And a lot more of the Ring.
Yeah, the Ring seemed to have traveled throughout history.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a fascinating book. So definitely read it if you can, and be prepared for that final dossier.
Yeah, and talking about changing history or altered history, there's that whole scene with Fight or Walk with Me in what is it? I guess we're still in 17 there. I love how there's this exchange between James and Laura, and then she screams, and that was in the original Fight or Walk with Me, and I always thought, well, maybe that's Bob, or maybe that's Leland kind of spying on them, but I love how they twisted it to be Laura freaked out seeing Cooper.
Yes, I thought that was interesting. I'm like, wow, they tied that in.
Yeah, I thought that was a nice little touch anyways, but yeah.
How did you feel real quickly when they briefly had that other actress playing Laura?
It was another actress?
It was another actress.
I couldn't tell if Cheryl Lee had makeup on.
No, it wasn't her.
Because she looked pretty good.
She did.
She wasn't perfect, but she there was some mannerisms that I felt were similar to Laura Palmer.
Yeah, it wasn't Cheryl Lee. It was there was this other actress who was listed, And a lot of people were saying she's a dead ringer for Laura Palmer.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were saying, well, David Lynch would never have someone else play Laura Palmer. But if it had cut to an older looking Sheryl Lee with makeup on, it might have really taken us out. It didn't take me out at all.
Right.
I knew it was someone else, and it didn't bother me.
And I love that, like, so you have that whole jumping off of James's bike and she runs into the woods, and we never really see, the next thing we see is her, I think, meeting up with Leo and the gang. And I love that you kind of get a little story in between that.
You cannot change that past. I love that. The payoff was great. There are loose ends we'd all like to see from the series, Audrey being one of them. I really want to know more about Audrey.
Definitely.
Is she the ultimate? Are we all living in her dream? I mean, what's going on with Audrey?
Right, and how is she connected to the Roadhouse?
I wonder if there was more filmed with her. I also wonder if there was more filmed with Shelley and Bobby. Bobby seems out of place when he shows up. He's like, what's going on here? But you went to Jack Rabbit's. I don't know. Bobby seems out of sorts.
Yeah.
Like, Bobby's character just wake up from a long dream or something? Like, he seems just kind of like, I don't know what's going on.
There's a lot of people in Frank Truman's office. Like,
there is a lot of people. Place got really big. And there's other stories that I'm sure we all would have liked to see a more of. I do like the fact that we got a little payoff on Lucy. I understand how cell phones work now.
Awesome. I know, because I think so many of us were like...
I was aggravated by that.
I remember you didn't like that.
I thought it was stupid. Like, she's not dumb.
Yes.
I don't think Lucy's character is dumb. I think she's a strong woman, and I think she's capable of understanding what a cell phone is.
Yes.
That's what blew my mind.
Yeah.
It's just like, she's been living for 25 years, and she doesn't understand... Like, these last 25 years, we haven't seen her, but she doesn't understand cell phones? I'm like...
Right. I think I already said this too, but in the missing pieces of Fire Walk with Me, there was a whole scene where she was using the intercom and she was talking to Andy and I think Harry Truman, and Andy comes upstairs and it freaks her out too because she thinks she's talking to Andy. So it's not like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, this is so out of character for Lucy, but like this is stuff they were thinking about 25 years ago. But it is good to know that it was a payoff. There was a payoff. There was a reason why they were setting that up.
And then she's talking to the real Cooper, but we have the fake Cooper in Truman's office, and she's just like, "No, this is really important. I understand cell phones now." Like, I thought that was a good payoff. Yeah. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I did. And like what I'm saying is, Lucy's naive. She's kind of sheltered. But by the end of season 2 of the original series, she can hold her own. I don't find her to be this airhead or anything. Right. I find her to be like, she's just who she is. So I thought that cell phone scene was a little, to me, out of character. But now that we had the payoff, so I enjoy it. I think this show really aggravated people in the beginning. But for me personally, when those payoffs happened,
you understand why
I understand, and I liked it. Yeah, I think because it's an 18-hour movie, it's so hard.
Yes.
To you got to wait for that payoff. The payoff is not like a normal structured show where the payoff would be 45 minutes. This is like 16 hours later. There's the payoff.
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Oh man. So this is our last show that we're ever gonna do, right? We're done with Twin Peaks Unwrapped. It was good. We've enjoyed talking with you guys.
Yeah. We'll
Bryon,
see you never.
It's been a pleasure.
No, our plans are going to go weekly to the end of the year, and next year we'll probably go weekly as long as we can.
Yeah,
right?
We'll see where we go from there. We'll reevaluate. Yeah. I feel like right now we're really hoping to get a lot of interviews. We've got plans. We never like to say our plans until we've done the show, right?
It's a curse. You don't say them.
I know. There's times where like you say something and then like, oh, that didn't happen. So, but our plans are definitely to try and get some interviews weekly. That's what we like to do anyway. So we're hoping to get some cast and crew and talk more about.
They can talk to us now.
Yes,
which is really cool.
The NDA has lifted.
Yay. NDA. But if you have a comment, question, theory, or an idea for a guest, you can please email us at twinpeaksunwrapped@gmail.com. And Ben, how is the Twitter going?
Twitter is awesome. It's a great place for conversations and discussions. And I was actually in a subgroup too, where there was like kind of like our own group with Ashmi from Showtime, and that was really special. That Showtime set up like a Twitter group that was a private group where we got to kind of talk and have conversations. And
we had no insider information.
We had no inside information, but it was times where we did have access to pictures, so we could post every week.
Yes,
you were doing that. That's where you were getting pictures for Facebook. You were posting and stuff like that. So I want to say thank you to Ashmi from Showtime.
Yeah, thank you.
She is amazing. She was always there for us to support us in
Showtime did an amazing job of supporting the fans in the community and allowing us to be part of the show. You don't get that very often.
No, not at all.
No,
I don't hear about that anyways.
They reached out to us. Yep. Showtime was like, "Who are you? We know what you do, but who are you? Who are the other people involved? Who's the other people in the community?" And it was great.
Yeah,
it was really great.
Thank you, Showtime. Thank you, Ashley.
Yeah.
And you know what? Right now we've got our voicemail set up.
Yes, we got a few, which we're gonna bank until we're gonna do
Who knows? We might put some out here.
Maybe Ben will do something. I won't know about it, but you'll see.
For now, we're gonna have it up. So maybe we'll put some out weekly. We'll see how it goes. But if you would like to leave us a message, you can ask about questions. You can share your comments, your own theories, whatever you would like. Call us at 866-8-UNWRAP. That's 866-886-9727. I'll say that again. It's 866-8-UNWRAP or 866-886-9727.
And that phone number is prominently pinned to the top of our Twitter page. And it's actually on Twitter. It's on our Facebook. It's on our webpage. So you can find it there. And the show notes. Our show notes, just so people know, our show notes always has links to guests. It has links for us. And it has information about our theme song. A lot of people have been where's that theme song from? How can I hear that theme song? Our show notes has everything you need. I don't think people know about show notes.
Yeah.
I think it's something people don't utilize. On iTunes, if you're listening to us on iTunes and you see our logo, you tap the logo disappears and it gives you all the show notes.
Nice.
Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Now you do.
I learned something new.
Yeah.
And we also have our tea shop there.
Yes, our Tea Public merch shop. The Dougie t-shirt is now gone.
No!
We have a couple new shirts in there. Also, we got a couple things pulled. I don't really have much of an update about that. I'm going to share it here. It's fine. We got a letter from Tea Public that we got some things pulled down.
Can you say which ones got pulled?
Well, for the lucky people who bought them previously, I can tell you that the starring Kyle MacLachlan got pulled.
Wow.
Twin Peaks Blue Rose Task Force got pulled.
Ah.
And our logo t-shirt.
No, I should have bought one.
Bino got one.
Yeah, Bino did, and so did Josh from the Red Room podcast. Wow, that's really too bad.
Yeah, I don't know. We're going to have to figure that out. They're collectible items.
Right. So you might want to go check out the shop now, make sure that nothing else gets pulled.
Bye. No, there's actually a couple more designs on there that are on sale as we speak for the next maybe day or two. I try to keep everybody updated. We have new things going in, old things coming out. Right now, the Firewalk With Me stuff is still up that we've had up there for the last 2 weeks. I don't know how long that's going to be up there for, but you can get t-shirts, coffee mugs, cell phone covers, wall art, stickers. It doesn't all have to be t-shirts. I mean, there's a variety of things up there.
Yeah.
So go on there, support us. The money goes to us to support this venture of ours, and some of it goes to some of the artists that make it.
Cool. Well, that is the show. We'll be back next week.
So we'll see you next week.
But it wasn't a dream. It was a place.
Do you understand a place?
Well, we dream lots of silly things when we...
No, Aunt Em. This was a real, truly live place. And I remember that some of it wasn't very nice, but most of it was beautiful. But just the same, all I kept saying to everybody was, I want to go home. And they sent me home. Doesn't anybody believe me?
Of course we believe you, Dorothy.
Oh, but anyway, Toto, we're home. Home. And this is my room. And you're all here. And I'm not going to leave here ever, ever again. Because I love you all. And, oh, Auntie Em, there's no place like home.